About a month ago, I was scrolling through the comments, and as I so often do, I get some really obnoxious comments and some really kind comments. I come across a comment from a guy named Metatron, thinking, okay, somebody pretending to be Metatron. And then it hit me. I clicked on it, and it turns out to be the Metatron, like the guy with 1 million subscribers. This gentleman saw my video about how I argued that in some situations, it's okay to have non-white people in traditionally white roles. And he made a good video in response. Some people have asked why he's so angry nowadays about Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. And I think he has a good reason. I'm going to share that in a minute. It comes back to an old philosopher that really helped me understand the rot in liberalism. Before I go any further, Metatron, if you happen to see this, I understand that you recently had a son.
Is he too young for coffee?
Maybe a little bit.
Little coffee? Espresso? Macchiato?
Congratulations.
Nolan, where are you going, Nolan? That's not the right direction, Nolan.
If you're out of the loop, the man has been relentlessly mocking and just prodding at Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey for weeks now.
Hey, Nova Ones, look at what I found. A fellow hater of Nolan. Okay, I'm joking. Maybe. Roger Maxson, 15,000 subscribers, tells us black actors in white roles, The Odyssey, a different take. Well, I'm curious to see what kind of take we've got, and without further ado.
I love the Iliad. This guy's really handsome, though. Yeah, the Odyssey, the Aeneid, and to some degrees, Dante.
Ooh, Dante Alighieri, my man. La Divina Commedia. First bonus point for him.
Metatron, if you happen to see this, you're from Italia. So from where in Italia are you from? Beautiful country. These stories are all connected, and it's interesting to me to see the nuanced connections, references to Greek mythological terms and places
Right.
in the Christian New Testament, like Peter's use of the word Tartarus, or in the book of Acts, St. Paul being faced with a woman possessed of a serpentine spirit, which is a reference to the cult of Apollo and the oracle of Delphi, suggesting that this oracle was actually essentially a slave. She had handlers, and she was possessed of a demon. But the demon knew who Paul was because he knew what Christ was. And Paul just casually got annoyed and cast the demon out, and then the woman became worthless to her handlers.
Man, could you imagine? Goodness gracious, Paul. Way to show off. Like literally when you get like maxed out on your levels to a point that a demon just annoys you.
If you watch this channel, you know I find the ancient world absolutely fascinating.
Once again, tell me about it.
The Iliad, I've got multiple translations. Fagel's translation is good.
Best. Yep.
Is one of my favorite stories of all time. There are a few stories I could live in. That's one of them. But I also love The Odyssey. Here's a Lattimore's translation. I've got Fagel's translation. Here's Fagel's. And here's a new translation by Stephen Mitchell. It's a little more accessible to modern audiences. But
Define modern audiences. Also, did you notice that there is one translation that is missing on the pile of books? Gee, I wonder why.
all right, I do have the translation, but it is not my favorite translation. I think some people assume that all the more woke stuff in Nolan's film came straight out of this translation. I don't think it did, but it's not my favorite translation by any stretch. Lattimore's translation is good. Fagel's translation is good. Beautiful translation. Wilson makes some really strange word choices. She dials back the language about some of the monstrous creatures in the Odyssey because she's trying to be more fair to them, it seems. She's got Penelope with a thick hand. She's got some really weird word choices, but it is very readable and clear. Controversy over the movie.
Yeah.
Setting aside, thank you. Thank you for noticing Yoda. Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite filmmakers, living filmmakers. The Dark Knight trilogy, at least the first two.
This setup sounds to me, the reason why I haven't flipped the table yet, this setup sounds to me as, look, Christopher Nolan, I like him so much, Batman, but this is woke shit. That's what it sounds like, okay?
You take my favorite filmmaker, one of them, and one of my favorite stories, and you think I would just be ecstatic about this movie. But like everyone else, I've got concerns.
Concerns for me would be the understatement of the century. I need professional help.
But I want to set aside the potentially questionable casting for Achilles.
Oh, Achilles.
I want to set aside the costume designs and talk about one thing that's been causing controversy.
Yeah, what's that?
The casting for Helen of Troy.
All right. This is it. True test of character, guys. What is he going to say?
I have a different take on this.
Right. What's that?
She is, I've seen her in a movie before, I can't remember what it was, and I do remember being struck by thinking, this is a beautiful woman. But that's really not the controversy, is it? The controversy is twofold. One, this is supposed to be the most beautiful woman in the world, the woman whose beauty launched 1,000 ships. And
He laughed. He laughed.
the woman whose beauty launched 1,000 ships.
That's a brother of mine. Bro, if I recognize one when I see it.
So I do think the internet is full of rage and anger, so I try to remain a gentleman. She is not the person that I would have chosen for Helen of Troy, the face, the woman who launched 1,000 ships. I think she's a beautiful woman, but Helen of Troy is a woman over whom men fought a world war. I do question that casting choice.
Same, cut from the same cloth, I know it.
And two, let's state the obvious, and I'll be very candid here.
Please.
She's a black woman. Helen of Troy was not black.
Yeah.
Helen of...
Oh, okay, so, guys, that alone, we need to leave a good comment. We need to leave a comment and put a like to his video. Why, you say? He's stating the obvious, what nobody else does. They are all cowards.
I gotta say, sometimes this gentleman gets a bad rap on the internet, but I gotta say, he is... I've seen this guy be very gentlemanlike and kind and charitable. This is one of those cases. He had a debate with a woman called Lady the Library, and she said, look, he was very gentlemanlike and charitable, firm disagreement from this gentleman, but he treated her with respect. Give the guy props, give the guy credit.
Yeah, I like the costume because the skill of the actors and they pretend it's not a thing. Or they say...
He's right about this. It's a too big of a trend where people will act as though they like something just to feel like they fit in with the cultural moment, or they won't say anything. So I think if someone breaks the law and they're white or they're black or they're Hispanic or anything else, we should the nature of justice is to be fair. But some people would be, they're too afraid to say anything if the person who commits the crime is black. Or if these pride parades where people will go overboard. I just made a video about men who expose themselves walking around naked with their penises out in front of children, and millennial parents are all around cheering and applauding, boomers and millennials. Have some self-respect. Have some courage. Point out that these things are not right. Just because you're trying to feel good about yourself and say, hey, I'm a good person, I support the LGBT movement, I support black people, whatever. The far left will eat you anyway. Stand for justice and truth. And I appreciate him saying this.
They like it because they're afraid of being called racist. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
She's a black woman.
Yes.
Helen of Troy was not black.
Was not
so
black.
Let's cut to the chase. Some people will say that if you have an objection to this casting, you are a fascist, racist, Nazi, yada, 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 yada. There are some racists who have a problem with it. I get called that on at least a weekly basis. This casting.
Of course.
But the majority of people who object to it are not really racist. Certainly not fascist and certainly not Nazis. Have you guys, if you don't believe me, listen to how the Greeks, the Hellenes, are reacting to this. So many of them feel absolutely, they feel like they have been slighted. They are irate with Hollywood, they're irate with the movie because you added arbitrary diversity with everyone but Greeks. But if you want to call me racist over that, I politely suggest you're part of the problem. The breakdown of dialogue in this country, we can't have serious conversations because accusations, dismissal, well, you're just a Nazi. Stop it with that.
Sorry, I call him this guy. Roger, Mr. Maxson is spewing facts. Facts, you know, Nolan, the things you don't care about.
Can black people play roles traditionally played by white people because those roles or those characters traditionally are from white cultures?
Okay, so I'm going to give you my answer. Also, No need for this. It is white cultures. But let me just say it. Here's my answer. You ready?
Yeah, so I want to hear the man's answer. When I do this, because I think that so many people are lumped together and called white and then dismissed. But you're talking about Anglo-Saxons, Slavs, Germanic peoples, Celts, Greeks, the Hellenes. And these rich and ancient cultures are dismissed as white power, white privilege nonsense. I object to
Gonna be
that.
very deep. No. Thank you. But let's see his alternative one. But this is mine. And of course, the other way around too. The other way around too. It's traditional black. You already know. You don't play it with a white. Fine. Okay.
Is that ever acceptable? Man, this guy's handsome. I've thought a lot about this. My short understanding is, in some situations, yes, it's acceptable. Because I think the factors at play here are good faith, maybe not with this movie, but hypothetically. And I hope
Very hypothetically. Like, I'm letting him speak, okay? And then I'll tell you what I think, right? But this is a massive hypothetical here.
with this movie, good faith,
Faith.
and a hermeneutic of mutual celebration and participation rather than competition.
Okay, so basically it's fantasy. No, I appreciate that. No, I mean, I'm not being disrespectful. Again, I still really like this guy. I think we've got a kind of a very similar mentality. But I want to say this: I appreciate your hypothetical. So yeah, if you got the way I understand it, I'm sure you'll go deeper. If you it's fine in very certain cases to race swap an original white character with a black actor if they do it in a way that it's in good faith, with celebration and respect. Am I right? Is that what you're saying?
He has steelmanned my position. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think I know what he's going to say, but let's listen. I think there are examples of this when it was done, I think, properly. Denzel Washington playing Macbeth, who's a Scottish character. I didn't hate it. There was no power struggle between whites and blacks and the people in the bottom, the oppressed group trying to overthrow the white group at the top, and all this nonsense. I think it was done in the sense that I am the inheritor of Western civilization, so is Denzel Washington. He's as American as I am. And for him to play that role was saying, hey, let's share our mutual, the tradition that we've inherited. Let's celebrate it together in good faith. That's the way to do it. But there is a problem that I think this gentleman is going to wisely bring up.
Well, Hollywood, never gonna happen in a million years. Like this is we might as well. This is the Lord of the Rings level of fantasy, my friend. Like this is really high fantasy. It's not low fantasy. This is high fantasy. Like I get it. Okay, I understand that. I would still disagree, by the way, because I still think no race swapping. That's my take. But I can respect a person with a different position. Like he might say, no, for me, in very certain situation, as long as it's done with respect, I'm fine with it. That's his position. I disagree, but I would be okay with it as long as it's logically consistent. So, would you also be okay if it's a historical black character that is being race swapped with a white actor, but it's done with respect and good faith? The answer has to be yes for me to.
The answer is yes, because the only way for people to coexist in Western civilization is to drop this power struggle nonsense and be the shared inheritors of the Western tradition. So if there is a traditionally black story, right, and you have black and white actors in those roles, say it's a mythology, I think that's probably the best place for this to take place. If it's something sort of mythological, yeah, because there's not a competition between black and white. It's participation in. The problem with Hollywood and with a lot of Western academics, postmodernists and modernists, is that they see this in terms of almost a Marxist power struggle. And so the white man has to be taken down, and that's basically all white peoples. And all these people along the margins have to be put in their place. So they'll rip white actors out of white roles, and they'll put in, black people or Latinos or whatever. But it's done in bad faith. Have you seen the DEI checklist that these people have at Hollywood? You have to have so many gay roles, so many trans actors, so many black people, so many. It's arbitrary corporate nonsense. Corporations were convinced that in order to make money, they have to appeal to modern audiences, and they have to basically buy this nonsensical pseudo-Marxist model of society and culture. It's toxic, it's cancer. It's forced arbitrary diversity done in bad faith. The elite academic classes
Yeah.
because they have been convinced of this hermeneutic of race struggle, class struggle,
Marxism.
where they see... He gets it. Look it up. Look up, I think it's called the Four Olds in China. When the Marxists were taken over, they... Just look it up. Also, Marxism failed economically. People get on my case about that. I'm not wrong. And so if you look up, I can prove this. I'll make a video one day about it. But Marxism was repackaged essentially as a cultural model. So they ditched some of the economics of it, but they took this idea of power struggle between the classes, the oppressor and oppressed. And they apply it, some of these people apply it to marriages, to parent and children relationships, to race, to culture. It's like you take this one mechanism and you try to explain all of reality with it. It's stupid and it's cancerous. It means you can never have a coherent culture because whatever rises to the top must be pulled down because they only got to the top by oppression. There is oppression in history, there is power struggle in history, but to read the Odyssey in this way is to read it with a wrong lens. To read the Bible through a primarily class struggle lens is to blind yourself to what the text is saying. You just ripped all the color out of the world. You just drained the life's blood out of these texts. Every social phenomenon in terms of oppressor and oppressed.
I mean, he's based, guys. This guy's based. He's right. That's right.
Of struggle.
Yeah.
Traditionally masculine male or traditionally feminine female.
Ooh, that's the Antichrist for the elites in Hollywood. That's like holy water sprinkled on that devil himself.
Well, then we got to take you down a few pegs and put a transgender person, a homosexual person, a Puerto Rican person, whatever they see, whatever class they see as in the margins, and bring them towards the center, as Derrida would say.
That's correct. It's exactly how they feel, which is why it's not in good faith, which is why, and there is no celebration. In fact, there's deletion of what is perceived, everything he said precisely, which is why I will fight it until the end of days.
And so it almost is never the case. The same people who applaud a black woman portraying Helen of Troy, they often would criticize, and I've seen them do it, when a white male plays a Jewish role or any other race.
That is so true, exactly. It's the lack of equality. It is the exact lack of equality of treatment which any decent person would expect. No, they don't, but then they...
Yeah, it only goes one way, and that's not justice. That's a power struggle aimed against the whole of society. Anything traditional. Yeah, and then they also pat themselves on the back for as though they're being righteous, or they're better than you, or they're morally superior, which in many cases, no.
It's diabolical. He's explaining it perfectly, though. We need to give it to him. This is really good. Really well made video so far.
And that's what people sometimes on the right would point out.
That's me.
It never goes the other way, does it? You can't have Muhammad Ali played by a Korean man.
Or dare I say, a white man, even worse, that had degrees to this.
He's not wrong. There are literally degrees, the hierarchy of privilege, which is why you see regular, is that even the right word? You see homosexual men from the 90s. You're talking about men who were in monogamous relationships with a man, right? That's why you have Sam Smith, I think it was, had to come out as gender queer or whatever, because that's too high on the privilege. They're too accepted. They're too higher on the privilege hierarchy, on the ladder now. So they have to identify as something else. It's cancer. You can never have a coherent, stable culture because whatever's down here that gets up here, they're going to tear it down. It's cultural suicide. You take the point.
Right.
All right. My take is slightly different.
Okay, let's see.
Yes, when people convinced of the extremities, I'd say, of critical race theory, of Marxism, of this general narrative of oppressor-oppressed class, seeing all phenomena as a class struggle. Yes, it's often done in bad faith. It's often done to rage bait, knowing full well that they're going to get engagement. It's done to replace or to stick it in the eye of anyone who doesn't fit in with their ideology.
Man, facts.
But I don't think it has to be like that. The Brits, including the Welsh, or even to some degree the Italians, the Spanish, the Irish, the Americans, anybody in Western civilization are seen as the inheritors of Greco-Roman society.
Totally.
So me, I'm a mutt. I'm part Irish, part Native American Indian, like many people.
Awesome.
I've got a lot of stuff going on, but I am the inheritor of Western civilization.
100%.
It's fragmenting, it's crumbling, but we are the inheritors of a civilization cultural heritage. So I'm not Greek, but I love the Iliad and the Odyssey. I think that I can participate in these things.
100%.
Some people came here and they immigrated from different parts of the world, and they did it legitimately. What I think would be the best thing to do, I think that those people should embrace Western culture.
100%. Okay, this guy's based. We're gonna tell him. We're gonna tell him in the comments. Metatron says you're based. Go tell him. I've emigrated 3 times, multiple times in my life, but mostly 3 times. I lived in 3 different continents. I lived in Europe, I lived in Asia, and now I live in America. Every single time,
Welcome.
I have done it legally, with respect towards the people and the culture that I was being welcomed in.
Respect towards the people and the culture.
Okay? I spoke the language every single time. I've learned it, put in the work as a form of respect. I respect the laws of the country. I adapt my behavior to follow that of the peoples whose land I am now inhabiting, thanks to their acceptance towards me, of me. So I am assimilating. I mean, I'm becoming a citizen this month, as American citizens, as I said many times.
Seriously, dude, congratulations and welcome. That's awesome.
Does that mean that I have to delete my personal heritage as an Italian? No. No, I bring it here, but I offer it as a gift to those who are interested. Meaning, if you ask me, hey, can we speak to me in Italian? I like it. I'll speak a few sentences. If you tell me, can you teach me something in Italian? I'll do it. But otherwise, out of respect, I'll only speak English in this country when there are Americans who don't speak my language in the same room as a form of respect. And it's the same thing with my culture, with my habits, with my food. I bring them as gifts.
Dude, Italian food is good. I want to point this out. Once I walked into a place in Virginia, and actually twice, and once it was a big store in a historic town in which Civil War battles were fought, and I walked into the big store and I was the minority, not because there were Black Americans there, but because there were so many different kinds of people from so many different places and so many different languages being said. Now, in a sense, it's not inherently a bad thing, but the idea of America was e pluribus unum, out of many one, but now we're becoming out of one many. By design, we're being divided, not unified. So I walked into a store, it was a video game store, and I found an old Nintendo 64 game, and this dude was playing it, and he lost the level, and he kind of looked at me and smiled. And it could have been like this moment of shared, a shared cultural moment. Hey, we both know this game, you played it, I get the level, that one's hard. He didn't speak a lick of English, and he was here illegally, and I didn't hate him. There's nothing to hate about it, but something just short of lament for the fact that we couldn't communicate and have this shared, just a small little moment. It's harder to do that when you don't speak the same language. I do wonder if that's by design. Now, some countries naturally and organically have more than one language spoken there. It's normal. If you think we're divided now, though, wait till there's not just one major language or 2 major languages, but about 18. And neighbors can't communicate with neighbors. Politics, it's harder to communicate over local politics. You will have more isolation and more fragmentation. And I wonder if that's by design.
But I will rejoice in those things that instead kind of make us all Americans. Let's make it this way. Now, clearly, my son is going to be more American than me because he was born here. But I can participate because I'm willing to assimilate and respect. This is how it works. And I agree with him. Yeah, people are willing to do this, assimilate and actually contribute. Great. If they hate us, kick them out.
I think they should be allowed to embrace Western culture.
We have to consider this, Roger. I think you're a very, of course, you're clearly very intelligent, very cultured, educated person, but I can tell this guy's a good guy. Like, you can tell. Now, given, how can I tell? Well, by the things he's saying. Now, you can tell this guy hasn't got a speck of racism in him, hasn't got a speck of discrimination in him, the real ones. And you can tell that the guy, I mean, we probably agree on a lot of things, like I can tell.
If we could get more dialogue like this on the internet, instead of just hating everything all the time, things would be a lot better. Thank you for the kind words, sir. Reciprocated. Thank you for your kindness and your charity. We need more of that on the internet.
But I can also see that the way he expresses himself, the way the things he's saying, the way he's like welcoming, you can tell this guy is welcoming. It's not enough though. I can see it. Do you think the radical left-wing nutjobs that run that satanic cult that is Hollywood see something like this and think, oh, you know, that's quite a moderate take? Not a chance. You're still a Nazi fascist in their head. Like anything you said, that Lupita Nyong'o is a beautiful woman, that you loved Denzel Washington, they don't care. Doesn't matter. To the cultists, means nothing. You're still a fascist. Wasted breath. I mean, not on me. Okay, not on me. I can see your intent. I disagree. I think still no race swapping. Why? Because we don't inhabit this beautiful version of the world that you are now presenting. It's nice, but it's utopic. We don't live there. And so in this world where we live, and there is nothing, but would I take your version of race swapping to the one they do? Oh my gosh, a million times. I'd be like, yeah, go ahead, have fun. But that's not the world we inhabit, and because we have to counter the race swap, then the only way to counter it is not with moderation, but it's with the complete and utter rejection. That's my opinion. I respect his, I respect yours, and I think yours is more beautiful in a subtle way. But I don't think it's effective. I don't think it's doable in this world that we inhabit with these kind of people that hate.
His point is well taken. I get called a Nazi all the time. I'm not a Nazi. I actively encourage people to not be Nazis. There are people who are sympathizing with that movement more and more. Don't do it. There's better options out there. I know I can never talk the cultists out of this. They're in a cult. The people who are just blind ideologues, who are ruining their own lives and are unhappy, and this has given them some kind of religious zeal and purpose. Yeah, you can't talk them out of it. But there are people who aren't aware of how bad it is. And they think they're just two bad options. And I'm saying, no, there's better, more nuanced ways to think through this. But fighting against Marxism, absolutely, 100%. There's no nuance there. Why is the man so angry? I think it's very simple. This is a man named Edmund Burke. He's an old British philosopher who's conservative in the proper sense. Wasn't a Republican, wasn't a neocon, I don't think he was an economic liberal off the top of my head. By the way, when we say conservative in America and refer to the GOP, they are economically liberal. I'm not a big fan of any of that, to be honest with you. Edmund Burke realized something. What went right in the American Revolution that went wrong in the French Revolution? There's a philosopher named Roger Scruton. I highly recommend you check out his work. The late, great Sir Roger Scruton, who's a British conservative philosopher. And here's the thing. Not everything needs to be conserved, but there are things that should be and need to be conserved at cost. It may cost you something, conserve them anyway, because once we lose them, you can't get them back. Why this gentleman is so angry about Nolan, and it's kind of funny. I mean, if you watch his videos, he's all, Nolan. Sorry, I can't do it very well. He's angry because look at the picture of him holding his son.
Maybe a little bit.
Something I think Thomas Paine got wrong is a big thing. They almost had this assumption that there's no deep connection and responsibility from previous generations to ours, or from our generation to the future. If you want to just reinvent your government every 7 years, do so. That's foolish. Edmund Burke realized that there is a responsibility. We can't invent Western civilization on our own. If it was Thanos out of existence, our living generation could not recreate the Odyssey, the Iliad, the languages, the deep cultural roots, the architecture, the ideas of common law and dignity and human rights and God and religion, all the things that we just take, the English language that we just take for granted. It wouldn't be invented in a lifetime, or really probably ever again. And if it would take several thousand years, if God was merciful to us. I don't care if you're a Marxist, you depend upon the people that came before you. If you want to just look at all of it and dismiss it as a class struggle of evil bigots, you're a fool. But future generations depend upon us. And I think that's why this man is so zealous in defending the cultural tradition that we've inherited, because he has a vested interest in it. People who don't just have kids and leave them to their own devices, but I mean mothers and fathers who actually have children. They care about the future because their children are going to live in that world. They want to hand them the good things that we've inherited. Why should one generation be the richest generation in the world and bankrupt the next? This man is fighting those who want to bankrupt the next. And I'm with him on that, because our culture is worth it. The people coming after us are worth it. No matter how bad things get, I hope you know your life matters. So take care of yourself. As always, thanks for watching. God bless.